Hey y'all, here are 8 path designs that you might want to know. Alright, so the first path that we're going to be doing is going to be a variation of the simple dirt path. The first thing that we're going to fix is actually the shape of the path here, because you never really want them to be perfectly straight. In order to get the shape down for this path correctly, I'm going to show you in concrete first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a few points, just where I want the path to hit. And now that I have a few points, this is where the path's going to curve in between. So it's going to start here and end there, and it's going to hit that in the middle. With these points here, it just shows you roughly where the path will go. And I could probably start from here, but if you need a bit of extra help, you can put a few more in between. Alright, so now that I have the shape done, I'm going to start putting in the blocks to the path. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rough it up and make it less clean around the edges. I'm going to start for this one with the coarse dirt, just because I already have the base of the dirt path there, but it doesn't really matter where you start. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and take out random bits here and replace it with coarse dirt in a fairly random pattern. Alright, so here's the path we've got right now, and it's looking fairly messy right now, which is a good thing. But it's not looking perfect because we're going to iron it out when we're adding the rooted dirt to the edges. As you can see, when you're walking here, it looks like this bit is more trampled than this bit here. And that's because people are going to tend to walk down the center of the path than down the edge. So what I'm doing here is it's similar to what I did with the coarse dirt, and I'm just adding a little layer of the rooted soil. And you see, this is looking pretty good already, but I'm going to go through and add a bit more of the coarse dirt in. I'm going to sort of like blend all of these together, because you don't want there to be any like concrete lines separating one block from another. Alright, to start with the detailing, I'm going to start by adding a bit of a fence. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go here and add a few disjointed fence blocks like that. I'm going to do this all the way around. Alright, so what I also did is I added a few bushes around wherever there's any empty space. And the way I did that is I just sort of went over and clicked a few times. You don't want to add too many, and you don't want it to be too solid either. So I might go back and remove this and add another one here, just to make it look a bit more airy. The next path that we're going to do is the simple gravel path. The block palette I'm using for this one is a mixture of tuff, cobblestone, andesite, and gravel. I'm going to be using the tuff near the outside of the path and the gravel nearest to the center. This will help to simulate the damage the path will receive over time. This is because people tend to walk down the center of the path, which means the center of the path will tend to be more damaged. This is why you want to keep the most damaged looking blocks towards the center. It helps to give the path a more realistic look than it would otherwise. When I'm placing in the layers of the path, you can see that I'm not too worried about how clean the layers are. This is because you want to give the path a blended look anyways, so it doesn't really matter where exactly you place each block. In fact, a lot of the times, I will intentionally misplace a block outside of its layer, just to help blend the path more. The next path that we're going to be doing is the brick path. This one is similar to the gravel path, but it's going to look a lot more built up. For the palette of the brick path, I'm using a mixture of bricks, granite, and polished granite, and I'm going to be using a little bit of rooted dirt on the outside. The reason I have the rooted dirt on the outside is because typically on the more structured paths, when they're laying down the path, there will be a bit of a hole near the edge, where the builders misplaced a few bricks, or there's a bit extra dirt from them digging. This will leave over from even after the path is finished, and leave a bit of a bare spot in the grass next to it. It also fits because in this brick path, it's meant to look a bit more worn, so it helps add to the worn feel of the path. Alright, so the next path that we're going to be doing is the desert path, and this one's a bit more complicated, so I'm going to explain the palette real quick. So we're still doing the standard thing of going in from the outsides and switching to different blocks as you walk over the center more, right? But I want to explain these blocks really quick. So basically, right, the sandstone stairs, they're a really good block and paths just because when you flip them over, you get the cobblestone sandstone texture, which is really nice because when you just have the standard sandstone, when you place it down, you get the like smooth texture, which we are using also. But it's good to have it both as an option. So it's just a cool little trick to be able to flip them over and get that. And what we're also using is we're going to be using the birch trapdoors, not really as a block, but we're going to be putting them on top of the sand just as a little bit of a frame or some detail. And what it does is it gives a bit of height variation, which will help to lead your eyes down the center of the path. Whenever you're building a path into a new environment, it takes a bit more getting used to. For example, in the desert, there's not that many blocks that can be used in a path. So a lot of the time what you have to do is you have to get creative with your block choices. So for this path, I did have to incorporate wood into the path, even though it probably wouldn't be there in reality. I do also want to focus a bit more on the surroundings for these paths. So you're going to see me put a few dead trees in the background along with some cactuses. The path is usually going to only be one part of your build, so it's important that you make sure that what's surrounding it looks good too. The next path that we're going to be doing is the Taiga Path. The palette for this one is a mixture of wood, coarse dirt, and rooted dirt, and I'm also using some spruce trapdoors to look like dirt piles and to help frame the path. In the background of this path though, I am using some custom trees that I'm pasting in with World Edit. If you're in survival or you don't know how to make good custom trees, you can always use saplings. I would usually recommend to not use saplings in your builds, but in the spruce biomes, the spruce saplings actually work pretty well. They're probably some of the best looking standard trees. For the next path, we're going to do one in a cave. This one's a bit strange because you don't typically see these often. This could be useful though if you're putting your base inside of a cave or if you want to decorate your mine shafts. For the palette, I'm using a mixture of andesite, cobblestone, cracked stone bricks, and gravel. And as you get closer to the center of the path, you can see that I'm bringing the blocks down using slabs. This is because all of the blocks I'm using here are very gray to fit in with the stone, because you're not going to get that much of a color difference as the path wears away. Adding the depth here helps to show you where the path actually is and helps to direct your eyes towards the path. To decorate the surroundings of the path though, I'm adding a little water drip running through the path with a little bridge. This helps to break up the path a bit and add a little bit more color. I'm also going to add a few large red mushrooms attached to the walls. This is an excuse for me to add streamlights to the build. First of all, because I like the sound they make when I place them, and also because they add some good light to the build. Also, wherever it gets especially dark, I'm going to add some glow lichen around, just so that you can actually see the wall. The next path we're going to be working on is the snowy path. So, here is the block palette that we're going to be using. Some snow layers. This special trick I have here, I'm going to explain this in a bit. Rooted dirt, coarse dirt, and then some paths. Then just going to place that on the other side. So what I am doing with these right here, right? This is the debug stick. This is a Java Edition only item, so if you're playing on like a console or anything like that, you can't get this. And it's also for creative only, so if that doesn't apply to you, you can just replace this with more snow layers, and then that'll be fine. But I like doing this since I play in creative. And I'll have a command to get this in the description. It is /give @s debug stick. You can just copy and paste it from the description. And what it does, right, is when you right click on a grass block, it changes it into this neat little like snowy texture, which I really like for the paths, since it looks like it was sort of just shoveled or something. I don't know, but it gives a nice texture that not many people know about. And the debug stick can do a lot of other things, right? But this is just what I'm going to use it for right now. This snowy path is probably my favorite path design just because of the debug stick. If you can, I highly recommend using it just to impress your friends, because no one really seems to know that it can do this. Just like all the last paths, I made sure that I kept all of the blocks blended to give it a natural look. And also, like a lot of these, I decorated it with a little fence on the outside. Some more special little decorations I did for this one is I added some lampposts on the side of the road here, just to give it a bit more color, because the whole area was looking extremely pale. Also, whenever you're decorating anything in the snow, it's not a bad idea to add a few piles of snow layers. The snow doesn't tend to be just in flat sheets like they are in standard Minecraft, it tends to pile up in certain spots. So around the edge of the lampposts and the fences, I tend to make the snow a bit taller than it is usually. I also added a few more bushes around just to give the area a bit more green. The last path that we're doing is a street. I know this isn't really a path, but I did want to include it anyways. This one's fun because of how much you can do around it. For my street, I'm building a sort of old-timey urban style area, with the buildings having brick textures and some wooden textures in them. Depending on how old or worn you want your actual street to be, the block palette will change. If you want your street to look newer, I suggest trying to stick with less blocks. So for a newer street, I might use just smooth basalt or just tiled deep slate. But as it gets older, you'll want to start adding more and more blocks. What I find works well for this is a mixture of the deep slate tiles and bricks, and their cracked variants. This adds just enough texture to the street to make it look worn, but still functional. Another thing I want to mention about these is the sidewalks. I like to make these just one slab high, just so that you can easily walk up and down them. For the sidewalks, I'm using a mixture of stone slabs and andesite slabs. This gives it just a bit of texture that I like. If you're doing a more modern street though, I would suggest using sandstone, because our concrete for sidewalks now tends to look a bit brighter than it used to. Alright, I hope this video helped y'all out. If you enjoyed this video, you'd probably enjoy this one, where I did a challenge to build 5 builds in 5 days.